Bold predictions by Mustafa Suleyman on what will be impacting white-collar workers around the world.
And there is a debate going on. So we will cover that in the segment Thought of the Week. The debate is on, is SaaS dead?
And agentic commerce is actually heating up. Things are shifting from what might be the front door to AI-led conversations.
And AI was at Super Bowl all over the place. We'll talk about that.
And a couple of new things that are out there is Amazon's making a play for publishers to sell content from AI firms. OpenAI is rolling out an upgraded deep research tool with more agent-like multi-step processing. And we've got Zipu AI launching GLM-5 as open source. And we'll also talk about some things in declining computer science enrollment.
And a couple of launches. Qwen-Image 2.0, pushing higher-end image generation and editing capability. Plus, Google Gemini 3 Deep Think is here, changing the landscape in the research and scientific community.
So all that and more. Stay put. Wait for a quick intro, and we'll get into the heart of all those stories and more.
Greetings. Welcome to the AI Files podcast. If you're looking to stay up to date on the AI, this is the podcast for you. I'm Shadab Hussain. I'm the director of AI at Microsoft, and I'm your co-host.
Hello, everybody. Jamie Basilico, as you know already. I'm the other co-host here for the AI Files. My day job is a data and AI technical specialist and architect. As a reminder, please note this is not an official Microsoft channel, so the views and opinions expressed by myself and Shadab are our own and do not represent the views of Microsoft. So we have an interesting quote of the week from Mustafa Suleyman, who's the Microsoft AI chief. Basically, he did an interview with the Financial Times recently, and he predicts that most, if not every, task in the white-collar field will be automated by AI within the next year or 18 months. So his direct quote was, and here it is, quote, "I think that we're going to have human-level performance on most, if not all, professional tasks." And again, this is what he said to the interviewer on this past Wednesday. He continues, "So white-collar work, whether you're sitting down at a computer, either being a lawyer or an accountant or a project manager or a marketing person, most of those tasks will be fully automated by an AI agent within the next 12 to 18 months." So that's a pretty bold statement. I look back and think about what Mustafa is saying, and he's not alone. There's other people actually coming out and saying similar things. Anthropic CEO Dario, he said something similar, that all or at least half of the entry-level jobs in white-collar positions will be eliminated. I mean, that's kind of dark or bleak, I would say, if you're an entry-level person. And again, there's even more people. An AI researcher, Stuart Russell, had suggested that unemployment could reach extreme levels if society fails to adopt. So, do I subscribe to the same thought? To a degree. It's something certainly that is within the realm of possibility. We're starting to see some of these things, not only crop up in like financial reports and the things that, get discussed as far as jobs, but I see it, you see it on a personal level, and the things that we hear from enterprise organizations that we work with. So, he points out, Mustafa does, to, software engineering being an early indicator. If you think about what we've already seen, a great example, Claude Code, it's all the rage, right? Claude Code had written co-work. So, you think about what people are developing these days, they're developing with these AI tools. So software engineering is directly being impacted by this today. You don't need the same level. Now, abstract that out to what we believe will be the impact, again, for those types of workers, again, lawyers, accountants, project managers, marketing people. They're going to probably see that same level of intrusion for what these AI agents are able to do and perform those tasks. So does that mean you don't need, a junior lawyer anymore? Or does that mean, you can do away with like 3 or 4 less paralegals, or, somebody within the marketing organization? I think there's certainly some level of truth there. Now, one of the things that we always try to tie back to in, our podcast here is what does it mean to you as a practitioner, whether or not you're an executive or you're technical and you're on the front lines, if you will, building things. So as a leader, if you're an executive, one of the things I would say is, how is this impacting your horizon for how you think about your job roles, your cost structures, and the productivity metrics that you have within your organization, within your org? Do those need to be redefined? How are you thinking about the level of which you may adapt to change within the organization? It's not a question anymore if AI is going to transform knowledge work, but it's about how quickly is your organization going to adapt to these breaking rules or capabilities. And more importantly, it's the trust within employees. Like, how well are you providing that level of protection / openness for the way that their job roles may change? Secondarily, again, from an executive point of view, is what competitive advantage can you take away from this? Because you may shift your mindset from headcount towards more of a quality decision. Like, how is this going to provide you a competitive advantage for workflow design, or the data advantage that these agents are going to be able to take advantage of? And again, go back to what we've been saying all along. These agents don't need to sleep. They don't need to take coffee breaks. They're going to work all 24 hours, 7 days a week at these things. So, and again, that's going to be reducing the need for these white collar workers. From a technical perspective, again, if you're a person out there that's an engineer, an architect, or just an AI practitioner, what does that mean in terms of what is your technical excellence that you could bring? So AI assisted development, I've certainly now become an expert developer, right? Because I'm using these tools. That's no longer a novelty. It's becoming default. So, when you think about what does that mean for you being relevant for the types of systems that you design, the types of things that you're going to build, to frame, to validate and integrate, how does that change? Because you're no longer building things for, I don't want to say you're not building it for humans, but that junior person is no longer part of your, again, I don't want to say it's no longer part of it, but it's less emphasis on what you need to develop, because the who you're developing for is different. You actually could be developing for a series of different agents that are actually doing that. So this is where we want to think about how you change your phasing, like what's the tooling, the model capabilities, and how are you evolving your workflows. So anyway, I just thought it was an interesting comment by Mustafa, and it makes us think all the time, like how is AI really changing the way that we work, other than just, hey, these are really cool tools to use.
Yeah, and Jamie, only thing I care about is that did he say that they will the AI will also replace podcaster?
There already is the ability to create podcasts off of in OneNote and the Google's product as well. So
okay, so my backup job is also at the risk. Okay, no problem. But with hearing about all the white collar replacement, blue collar replacement, I have stopped wearing the shirts with the collar. As you can see, I only wear the collarless now, so that I'm at the risk. Not at the risk, actually. But yeah, I mean, like, joke aside, sometimes I wonder why the leaders have been passing these kind of remarks. Sometimes I feel that doesn't it create the backlash? And it has in the past, right? I mean, it is creating kind of a backlash in the society, but still leaders talk about it. And I think there must be some deliberate reasons behind this. One of the things is that they want to actually also portray that their AI or their solution has that kind of capability of 100% automating. I think that's one part of the promotion. The other is, I think also they are seeing things which others are not seeing right now, right? They are talking things which others don't know about. So they do have some visibility. So I think it has to be taken with, while with a pinch of salt, but also with a I would say greater trust that they are seeing things, and people have to be ready with that, basically. Although I do feel that it's hard to predict what things will happen. I feel that nobody knows, to be honest, what will happen in the next 5 years. Things may turn out to be basically a boon, or it may just turn out to be a problem there. We don't know, to be honest. It depends on how humanity react to it, how the government reacts to it, how the society reacts to it. I think that is what will determine more than the technology's capability, I think, right? So it's more of a human behavior rather than a technology capability question, in my view. Okay, let's move on to another, which we call as thought of the week. And that thought is SaaS dead? Software service, SaaS. Is that dead? Because this week, Databricks actually revealed their number. It's a private company, as you know, but they talked about what their annual run rate is. Databricks CEO and co-founder Ali Qudsi, he talked about that they have reached a $5.4 billion revenue run rate, and it's been growing 65% year over year, of which more than $1.4 billion was from its AI product. So he's kind of he said that, and it was an interview with TechCrunch. He said that everybody's like, oh, it's SaaS. What's going to happen to all these companies? And what is AI going to do with all these companies? For us, it's just increasing the usage. That's what he said. But I think the debate is because I think it started last year when Satya Nadella actually talked about it, the SaaS is dead, because SaaS is going to vanish because agentic workflow will overtake that one. So think about it, right? From a corporate point of view, what basically that means is rather than using these, like maybe Salesforce or many other, there are so many systems, right? Software as service that you classify, Workday or even Databricks or Snowflake, that probably will change because now it will be more of an agentic interface, right? You describe what you want and the agents will work in the background. So it's not like a person interacting or the application interacting with those SaaS applications. So I think that's what the change is. And that's why people are talking about the SaaS is dead. That doesn't mean that everything vanishes there, right? The interface may change, the plumbing may change, but that's what I think Ali is also talking about. But he also talked about how the SaaS companies can evolve. For example, he said that one of the biggest revenue churner for us, or actually the fastest one, is Genie. Genie is basically kind of their data agent equivalent, or basically a interface, AI-driven LLM user interface, where basically you can talk about what you want, the answers that you need, and then it will get it, right? So it's a little bit changed. It's an evolution more than elimination of the SaaS companies. So I think that is a perspective that I think we subscribe to nowadays. Ali is also referring to, and the companies like IDC is also talking about the same thing. So is SaaS dead? I would say it's more like it's evolving, and that's what everybody's expecting. So SaaS companies do need to respond by that evolution. Otherwise, they might be dead. Otherwise, they will become just a wrapper. That's what Satya was talking about earlier.
Yeah, so I've got my own interesting thoughts on this one, and it's because I personally lived through something. So, do I think SaaS is dead? No, but there are certain SaaS companies, and I'll create one. Think about like what QuickBooks does, right, for small businesses. If AI gets to the point, and I think we're pretty close to it now with this whole notion of vibe coding, I think it's still a little bit more on the technical side, right? But it's going to get to a point where everybody and anybody, including my wife, let's say, for example, can just vibe code an application, and it's going to become second nature. All right, I'll equate that then to small companies when they look at, well, do I need to buy a subscription or buy into a large tool, whether it's like the Oracle systems or QuickBooks from a really small scale? Like, do I need all the bells and whistles of what that tool provides? Maybe not. Maybe I have a small company and I've heard about this vibe coding thing from Microsoft or from OpenAI. Maybe I could build my own small little QuickBooks. So I think it may be an area where some of these vibe coding tools or whatever you want to call it might chip away at some of these SaaS companies. So it's not about whether or not they're going to be dead. It's a matter of how they will change based upon the times to either change the way their business model acts or integrate with some of these tools or just accept slightly smaller revenue margins because some of those customers may go to building their own tool. So and I equate that because I do have a small quote unquote weather company, and I'm contemplating not renewing my QuickBooks subscription and seeing if I could just vibe code a small little accounting application. And I'm a microcosm potentially of a lot of other small businesses. Again, like I said, I'm probably a little bit further ahead of the mom and pop store. I don't think they're going to be building their own what I'm going to call tiny books. But that's an example of that.
It's a great example, actually.
Yeah. So anyway, switching, since we were talking about commerce and things like tracking, right? Microsoft actually produced an article recently that explores the shift that's underway with retail, and they're calling it the agentic commerce. It's really, when you think about it, what they're trying to position here is we're moving away from traditional search and these page-based shopping experiences to something that's more AI conversational, that ultimately guides like you, me, and anybody else as a buyer consumer into decisions in real time. So, instead of doing what we've done for a number of years, going out to Google or Bing, let me go search this, or let me go hit a website. You could, I'm definitely guilty of this one. Like, I'll try to bring up 5 different sites. I'll create my little spreadsheet. I'll compare different prices. That sucks away a lot of time for me, right? And I'm doing all that to go find, my latest telescope, and that thing is $400, right? But I just spent so much of my time that it's I don't want to say it's a waste of my time, but it's something I could have done differently, right? So, what I've started doing right now, and this kind of speaks to what Microsoft is saying in this article, is that people are changing the way that they're thinking about commerce overall. So, for what I do now is I actually go into, whether it's Copilot, I actually use ChatGPT a lot. I'll go into there and I'll start, telling them the things that I'm looking for, and the types of brands that I'm using. So this is changing more into a way that this is creating basically a feedback loop. Now, some brands are actually starting to put in, chat integration into their websites and tools. This is giving that feedback loop. This is giving the ability for me as a shopper to send signals to that company or to ChatGPT. And I'm sure we've all heard already, what ChatGPT is doing with adding adding ads into their browser. And I think you're going to talk about some of the Super Bowl ads, which made me think about an ad. But we send signals to these brands. What's our preference? What's the context? What's the intent that we have? That all flows back to the retailers. So these are sending signals to those retailers, whether or not they get it directly or they get it through quote unquote a provider, about like what should they do as far as promotions? What should be their inventory decisions? What might be their pricing strategies that they want to embark upon based upon the things that we are telling them based upon consumers. So this is what I kind of call hyper personalization, because it's not just me doing a web search anymore. It's me actually having a conversation with something, right? So, me, I'm the data guy, right? Data is the new oil. It's the gold. So if, and this is for our executives that are listening to this, or people that have some influence on company strategy, you want to think about this as a structural shift in the way that you think about how revenue could be created. The things that we're sending as consumers, again, are potentially things that are going to be ways that you can think about these signals, things that are going to change the brand influence, things that are going to really be data from the conversations that I have. That becomes a competitive asset. Things that can shape your pricing, the loyalty, the assortment, quote unquote, the inventory that you keep. And it also provides basically a lifetime value. As me, if I get connected to a brand, I'm actually speaking, think of it this way, I'm actually speaking with instead of it being a person who knows me now intimately, I'm doing that conversation with a chat bot, an agent, whatever it is. So whoever as a company, owns or takes advantage of owning that conversation, that becomes a defensible advantage that you could potentially have against some of your competitors. So, I take that back to how you can action on this. It's certainly seeing this change overall. And I think whoever takes advantage of it, either as a direct-to-consumer organization, or maybe, again, I'll point back to OpenAI, they're going to use the conversations and things to drive ads. Who's not to say that they're not going to sell that data at some point later on. So anyway, it's the whole idea of the changing landscape and what we have on e-commerce. And we see it today, and I guarantee it's going to continue to move forward as we go on.
Okay, moving to the next item is, let's talk about AI at Super Bowl. The game was honestly lame. I did not really enjoy it. It was very lopsided. Feeling cringy about, how the New England Patriots. Anyway, let's not get into that. But the AI at Super Bowl, there were tons of ads. Some were explicit, some were like, basically embedded AI features in those messaging. Let's start with some of them, like Swechka. It's a vodka company. It basically had an outright ad where 2 robots are actually dancing, with basically this ad itself is while robots are not nothing new, but the ad itself is actually generated a lot by the AI. So it's a quite an AI generated ad. Basically, that's one part of it. The other ads were, for example, OpenAI Codex. The Codex agent. I actually like the ad. It was pretty, I would say, sophisticated ad about the using the Codex and building things. And then there was Anthropic. It was a funny ad. Even Sam Altman said that it was a funny one, even though he did not like appreciate that. And the take on them using the ads in the chat GPT, it was basically a guy, talking about that asking another person, which basically is representing as if you are conversing with the AI chatbots and telling that, okay, some personalized plan. And then it tells, yeah, great. And then it started throwing some discount code and ads, kind of like it's basically that was a representation of it. And I think the underlying message is that, and this is what Anthropic has also declared, that we will not put the ads because the conversations are too private, too intimate, too sensitive to put the ad. Um, so basically that was I would say another AI ad. Then there was a Meta Oakley AI glasses, pretty good. Amazon Alexa Plus, Ring Search Party. I think that's a good feature, and it's of course AI enabled, where basically somebody or some pad is getting lost, and then you can enable the search party, and you can contribute to the search party, and then your cameras can look for anything or any pad, which basically matches that picture, etc. Right? So, and there was outright another AI ad, Google Nano Banana Pro, okay, where mother is basically working with her child to actually kind of assembling things, right, using the room picture and trying to check the design, things like that, right? So it was a image or image editing kind of features, and there are a bunch of others. I'm not going to go into deep, but there were a lot of ads, or almost over 10 ads that had either AI, they were either AI generated or AI focused, or had some AI features involved.
Yeah, but quick sort of comment on that. I was actually surprised in the number of AI related ads that were there, whether or not it was companies or something indirectly related to it. I even turned to my wife and I'm like, we're definitely saw a swing or a pendulum swing here from what used to be 5 years ago, the types of ads, to now where we are. So definitely evident. Anyway, we spoke about OpenAI a little bit. Let's get into some rapid news here. OpenAI actually rolled out an upgraded deep research tool inside of ChatGPT. And this is a major upgrade because they put GPT 5.2 reasoning model underneath it. So it now behaves more like a true AI agent. It can launch multi-step web searches on its own, pull from various different websites, and even connect to external apps. So, all the while you could watch this thing actually run. So, yeah, a good update to the deep research, and I do use it a lot. So it's a good update.
Interesting tidbit. For the first time since the dot-com bust in the early 2000s, undergraduate comp science enrollment across the University of California system declined in 2025. And University of California, as a lot of people know, Berkeley is the star in that one, but the UCLA, UC San Diego, they're part of the public university, University of California. Many campuses around the California, all pretty good colleges. Across that system, 12,000 plus students are majoring in comp science this year, about the same as in 2021. It's a 6% drop from last year, on top of a 3% drop in 2024. Basically, what it shows is that the skepticism about the comp science or comp engineering kind of careers is rising. People are not very sure how safe they are. It was, of course, the number one most lucrative majors, but now people are starting to question and diversifying from those choices. And that's what this decline represents.
So in other news, there's a new open source model coming out of China. It's a company called Zhipu AI. And this is being touted as one of China's rising stars in the AI arms race, if you will. So this new model is called GLM-5, and it adds the capability to bring stronger coding performance as well as the ability for long-running agents. It lands pretty close to Opus 4.5 on benchmarks, and it even surpasses Google Gemini 3 Pro in some tests. So it's a pretty capable model. What's also interesting here, as a side note, it runs on domestically produced chips out of China, including Haiwu's Ascend. And this is just ultimately pushing China into more of this semiconductor self-sufficiency. And that's obviously based upon some of the tightening export controls that are based here in the US. So speaking of models from China, one of the other models that came out is Qwen. So I don't know how many people really know and understand what Qwen is, but it's actually part of Alibaba. Again, Alibaba, a huge company out of China. And Qwen models have been out for quite some time. I actually use some of the Qwen imaging models already. So this new one is called Qwen-Image 2.0. It's actually a major leap in multimodal image generation. So not only does it do text to image, but it also does image editing into a single system. And it actually can handle professional grade photography, photorealistic 2K imagery. But probably more importantly, it handles long context prompts or complex prompts up to 1,000 tokens. So this actually helps to propel this model into the next realm or next phase. So this update actually kind of focused in on 5 different pillars: the precision, the complexity, the aesthetics, the realism, as well as then alignment. So ultimately what it means is that it's cleaner text rendering. It's got better layout control based upon being able to actually tell it what you want. It also comes with richer visual details, as well as consistent editing as you go through different iterations or different versions of the photo that you're actually editing. So this brings together really a key shift in an architecture, because it brings together both of these different modalities into one. And in short, this really pushes the envelope. I mean, from some of the things I've seen already, and we'll post show notes and links to it, but this has the ability to go up against things like GPT Image 1 or Nano Banana. It's that good of a model.
Okay, and one final piece. Google has launched the Gemini 3 Deep Think. This is Google's most specialized reasoning mode, and it has been updated to tackle complex problems in science, research, and engineering where data is incomplete, noisy, or lacks clear right answers. And they have given several examples. There are some videos on the short videos about how a professor of math, she had a peer-reviewed paper about to get published, and then she threw it to the Deep Think, and then it identified something which was not correct, and it alerted, and then she validated that yes, it was not right. So it was really able to do at that level of thinking, which even passed the peer review. And another example, one of the professor at the researcher actually at the Duke University, they were actually working at a problem, and it was able to design a 100 micrometer, basically the semiconductor chip design. So that at that level of is what basically this model is able to do. So it is a really good assistant to the scientist, researcher, engineering, that kind of field, and that's what this model is. So it's now available for the Ultra, the AI Ultra subscription in the Gemini, and then people can actually, if they want to try it out. But it seems highly capable. It has, of course, passed all kind of benchmarks. If you see here in this chart that it is way ahead of Gemini 3 Pro release, but also ahead of even Cloud Opus 4.6 or GPT 5.2, which just came out in the thinking. So really a star in multiple benchmarks, and it seems like another leap that they have. But looks like highly specialized and focused on the research engineering and the scientific community.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that one and trying it out myself. So
I'm not working that level of depth, so I'm okay. I'm happy with doing some poetry at ChatGPT.
Too true. Okay. It's about picking the right tool. So with that, yeah, we that's all the news for today. And
30 minutes a week, and keep yourself up to date and current. That's a bargain, actually.
That's right.
Keep listening.
Thanks all. Thanks, Bob.
Jimmy.